start today off a little bit different. We're gonna start with the cha-cha slide just to kind of get everybody moving and feeling good before we get started with all of our activities today. So if everyone wants to go ahead and stand up and find a spot in your home or wherever you're at to do the cha-cha slide with us, that would be awesome. It'll be fun. And Mimi, if you want to start the music for us, in about 30 seconds, that way everybody gets settled really quickly. So it's pretty simple. If you guys haven't done the cha-cha slide before, you'll just follow along with the words as they are singing the song. And I'll also be doing it too. So you guys feel free to follow along with me if you can't hear it for any reason. But Mimi, you're muted, so you'll have to unmute for it.
Everybody clap your hands. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. Right foot, let's start. Left foot. Cha-cha, real smooth. Turn it out. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. Right foot, let's start. Left foot, let's start. Cha-cha now, y'all. Last time to get funky. To the right now. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. One hop this time. Right foot, two stumps. Left foot, two stumps. Slide to the left. Slide to the right. Crisscross. Crisscross. Cha-cha, real smooth. Let's go to work. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. Two hops this time. Right foot, two stumps. Left foot, two stumps. Hands on your knees. Hands on your knees. Come on. Cha-cha, y'all. Turn it out. To the left. Take it back, y'all. Five hops this time. Right foot, let's start. Left foot, let's start. Right foot again. Left foot again. Right foot, let's start. Left foot, let's start. Freeze! Everybody clap your hands. Come on, y'all. Check it out, y'all. How low can you go? Can you go down low? All the way to the floor? How low can you go? Can you bring it to the top? Like it never stopped? Can you bring it to the top? One hop. Right foot down. Left foot down, y'all. Cha-cha, real smooth. Turn it out. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. One hop this time. Reverse. Reverse. Slide to the left. Slide to the right. Reverse, reverse. Reverse, reverse. Cha-cha now, y'all. Cha-cha again. Cha-cha now, y'all. Cha-cha again. Turn it out. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. Two up. Cha-cha now, y'all. Oh, yeah.
Well done. That was fun. I feel good. My blood's pumping now. All right, let me get back settled in. So just to introduce our team, I'll start and then I'll have the rest of our team introduce themselves today. I am Zoe Malone. I am Miss Evelyn's granddaughter, and I am a dance teacher here in Dallas, Texas.
And my name is Paul Jackson. I am a algebra and geometry teacher here in Miami, Florida.
And I'm Jaden Jefferson, and I am a multimedia journalist in Toledo, Ohio.
And I'm Evelyn, one of the leaders of this team, and I can't breathe right now. Welcome, guys.
Yes. So yes, that was a lot of fun. So I just want to welcome everybody to our symposium today. The chat right now, just so everybody has a heads up, we're going to disable it for a period of time during the event whenever we're doing a couple of our activities. And we have some speakers. So if you have questions or anything like that, save them for whenever you are able to put them in the chat. And we're super excited. Today is a special day. We've chosen to recognize and celebrate a lot of our friends, categorized as Gen Z and millennial, with a few boomers in the mix. So here in our anti-racist group, we have 3 specific objectives: celebrate, educate, and cultivate. So each person should always have something to celebrate, to learn through education, and to cultivate by continuing to build partnerships and friendships with everyone. So today, we're gonna be celebrating 8 of our friends. They've set time aside for them to come and share laughter and have fun with us. But before we do that, I wanna recognize 2 people that we're going to be missing today. Our other partner, Ivy, who's also my cousin and my Mimi's granddaughter as well. She lost her great-grandmother this past week, so she won't be joining us today. And Mimi, if you want to tell us the other person while I catch my breath for a second.
Yeah, and one of our friends that was going to be joining us today too is Sana Shahid. And Sana lost her grandfather this week in Pakistan. And as we're speaking right now, they're live streaming the services from Pakistan. So we want to certainly remember both of these ladies. Very, very important and strategic to what we're doing.
Yes, so just keep them in your prayers and all of that jazz while we kind of motivate and navigate through today. But I do want to introduce our other friends and our guests who we have here today. We have Gabi, we have Chris, Amanda, Durrel, Ever, Mac, Saskia, I hope I said that correctly, Bekir, Emily, and Isba. So I have a little activity for them. If they are ready, we'll go one at a time. I'm going to share my screen with the objective of the activity. So give me just one moment. Let me pull that up. There we go. Let me make it big for everyone to see. There we go. All right, so this is the 5-finger introduction. So essentially, you're going to have an introduction for each finger on your hand. So as we go through each person, you'll use your pinky, your ring finger, your middle finger, your pointer, and your thumb. And as you can kind of see, these are all the things that you'll say about yourself for each finger. So your pinky is going to be a small thing about yourself, a fun fact. Your ring finger is going to be something that you love. Your middle finger is something that you greatly dislike. Your pointer finger is where you're going. It could be upcoming travels, plans, anything that you kind of want to talk about there. And then your thumb is going to be where you've been. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started, Mimi, if you want to, or Paul, if you have the list of names, if you want to get someone to go first. I can't see my list right now.
Let's start with here.
Yeah, let's do it. Who did you say again?
Bekir can start first.
Okay.
Sure thing. And yeah, that's how you pronounce my name, is Bekir. Way to go, Miss Evelyn. So let's see, a small thing about myself, a fun fact. Oh gosh. Has to be fun, right? So I don't know. I'm a black belt in karate. Let's go with that. Something I love. I love voter registration and mobilization every election cycle. That's one of my favorite things to do. something I greatly dislike is hyper generalized irrational arguments that come from the right often. Pointer finger, where am I going? I'm graduating law school in 2023 and running for city council that same year. And where I've been through the immigrant and refugee experience and have entered into a new phase of life with assimilated parents and family in America. And now we have a lot of opportunity to build our generational wealth, starting with me.
How about Amanda? That was awesome, Bekir. Thank you.
Cool. Tough to follow. Okay. Something about me, I'm gonna use my hands because I'm a nerd. Small thing about myself is I like to roller skate. Something I love is my dog, Sydney. He's right here sleeping next to me. Something I greatly dislike is I'm gonna stop doing the finger thing now. Something I greatly dislike is indifference. Like when people are like indifferent to all the things that are going on in the world, like suffering of other people, and they just like don't care. That's like really bothers me. One place I'm going is I'm going to be working on the midterm elections next year. I'm really excited. Want to make sure we expand our majorities in both the House and the Senate. And I know Miss Evelyn is going to be a huge part of that. And where I've been, I recently went on a vacation where I met my baby niece for the first time. She was born last October, but I didn't get a chance to see her because my brother's in the Army and his base was locked down. So that was something I really enjoyed.
Gabi.
Hey, y'all. A small thing about myself, fun fact, when I was 15 living in Brazil, I used to play roller skate hockey and I was the goalie and I was very serious about it and loved it. I don't think many people know that about me. Something I love, I don't know, this might be not where you were going for with this, but I love organizing. I think I have found a really beautiful community and organizing and a way to kind of have an impact that I wouldn't otherwise have or be able to have as someone who's undocumented and who isn't able to vote herself. Something I greatly dislike, unpopular opinion, cats. I am terrified of cats. I have a huge cat phobia. I don't like them. People try to show me their cats on Zoom and I'm like, I can't, just don't. Where I'm going, I hope that we're going and we're moving in the direction of getting pathway to citizenship for a lot of us. That's where I want to go and where I believe we will go. And where I've been, not many places because of my status. So unfortunately, one of the ways in which my lack of status here manifests is that I can't leave the country. So other than my home country, Brazil, I've not been to any other countries in the world. But we're going to change that with Pathway to Citizenship.
Okay, Chris, you're next.
Hey, all right. So, okay, small thing about myself. I too have a black belt, just a black belt. It's not in karate or nothing like that. I just have a black belt. Okay, praise Jesus. I know y'all ain't been sitting here looking at me thinking I had a black belt in karate. Okay, anyway. Something that I love. I love to travel. It is a thing that I am really passionate about, and if you know me, you know I do it as much as I can and obsess about it a lot. Something that I greatly dislike. I don't have enough fingers, but I'm so glad that you made it the middle finger because I see what y'all did there. Anyway, no, I really dislike people who are who show indifference in moments when they should be paying attention or at least giving energy to. That, and I also greatly dislike bodily sounds. Like, like I do not like to be around people and like say they might burp or something like that. Excuse yourself. Or like at the dinner table and somebody blows their nose, go to the bathroom. It's just gross. Anyway, where am I going? I have not been on a vacation in a very long time, since 2019, which is not a very long time, but it's a long time. But my cousin and I do have travel plans for next year. She's never been out. She's never been to Europe, so I was going to take her with me to go visit some friends in London and Paris, which is really fun. And if I can get a small, with this pandemic, I don't know, but if I can get a small break, I would love to go to Barcelona for myself. She can't go with me, love her though. And then where I've been, the last time I was on vacation it was a twofer. The first part was for work, and that was in Frankfurt, Germany, which I've already talked to Miss Evelyn about. She gave me a whole bunch of pointers before I went. This is back in 2019, so I went for a work convening in Frankfurt, or outside of Frankfurt, Germany. And then I left there and went on a mini vacation to Istanbul for a few days and then came back. And yeah, that's me.
Okay, Durrel, if you're on board, you're next.
Okay, Pinky, a small thing about myself. I don't know, what's supposed to be like a funny thing? Oh, fun fact. I used to work at the prison right out of high school. That was my first job. Rings, something I love. I love food of all kinds. Middle, something I greatly dislike. Yams. I don't like yams. My dad used to always make them, and he'd be like, finish all the food off your plate, and there would always be yams that I did not like. So to this day, the sight of yams just pointer where you're going. I'm going to Houston, which is where I'm from, next month. Where I've been, I just left Philly and I had a blast. And that's it.
All righty, thank you. Saskia, and I didn't say your name correctly, I apologize.
Nope, you did. Hello, everybody. My name is Saskia. A small thing about myself, I have a 2-year-old golden retriever corgi. So that's my fun fact. Something that I love, I'm gonna say family. Something that I greatly dislike. I think a few people already touched on it, but I would say, sorry about that. I would say that I greatly dislike cancel culture. I think it's super toxic, especially in our day and age with social media and how easy it is to cancel somebody. I think it allows people to, just not pay attention when they should be paying attention. Where you're going, I'm going to Philadelphia, which is where I reside, but I'm actually visiting family here in New York. And then where you've been? I haven't really gone anywhere in the past couple of years, but in COVID, I've been camping a lot. So I've been upstate New York camping in the Catskills, which has been lovely. And I wish I could be there right now.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to take one person who's new to the group, but not part of our event today, but someone that I've learned a lot from in advocacy work, Randy Bernard. Okay, Randy, you're muted. If you can hear me, you would have an opportunity to respond to the 5-finger introduction. Okay, then why don't we just kick it off to our youngest member, Jaden Jefferson.
All righty, so I'm gonna have to, this is gonna be a difficult one because some of these answers were really good. Small thing about me, a fun fact. I guess I just like dogs. You know, I have 2 of them at home. Something I love. You know what? I guess I just love eating. I just love food. Something I greatly dislike. Spam emails. I've been getting too many of them recently. Pointer, where I'm going. I had a vacation plan, but due to COVID, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. And then something where I've been. I just say I've been to Florida, and that's something I enjoy doing.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it, Zoe, and I'm going to check out and give it back to you.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for sharing your 5 fingers. That's a really interesting way to kind of get to know each other. So what we're going to do now is we are going to break out into some breakout groups. And then we're going to do a sort of a paper bag skit. So once you get in your breakout groups, your leader of that breakout group will be able to explain more of what it's going to entail. So we will go ahead, we're going to do 2 breakout rooms, and we'll go ahead and separate you. Once you get that pop-up, go ahead and join that breakout room that you're going to.
Okay, so who's leading the discussion? I'm sorry, the presentation.
Oh, anybody want to lead? No volunteer.
I'll go. All right, let's and if I don't remember something correctly, just jump in and correct me. But we have Paul's brother's drawing of a handsome young man, and he's at the beach, right? And there's some seagulls flying around. Maybe as I mentioned the item, y'all should put it up on screen. So we have Paul's brother's drawing, the handsome young man. He's at the beach where there's a seagull, seagulls flying around. And at the same time, he's reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. A lot of self-care, self-love in this skit. And then he's drinking wine, enjoying his day at the same time. And there's some kids running around blowing bubbles. And then one of those kids comes with this rose-made teddy bear and gives it to him in exchange for some shea butter. And yeah, I think that was all the items.
That's it.
Okay.
Amazing. You guys have such talent. That's awesome. Okay. Go for it, Zoe. I think you're up now. Oh, is it Jaden?
It's Paul.
Paul, sorry about that.
Paul has a question.
I do. Let me see. So let's see. So we're looking at trying to find a moral, or better yet, let's think of just the emotions that we've been getting or collecting ourselves from our meeting. I would love to go with, since we have the love, let's go with the Saskia with her teddy bears of roses. What are your thoughts on just moral, just seeing how we all came together? Yeah, just what are you thinking about?
Just so that I understand the question, what do I think about how we put the story together?
Yes.
Okay. I thought we put this together pretty quick. I liked how, I don't know, I personally didn't see how the different pieces would come together. So it was really interesting to see everybody just like hop in, and I don't even know. It was interesting to see everybody just hop in and kind of like drop a little tidbit and to see how it worked. It didn't make sense, but everybody was still supportive and like, oh yeah, shea butter in the sun, definitely, that'll help with the sun. But I don't think shea butter does. So that was cool.
Yeah, we gonna sweat with that shea butter.
Right.
That is hilarious. But no, you're spot on. I do think just having us to come together, just sharing our own thoughts, but getting a chance to see who we are as a personality, collaborate, all come from different areas of spectrums, different cities, and we're here together on Zoom, making a good time, a lot of smiles, a lot of laughter. That's really all, just taking that moment of our own self, our sanity, to make ourselves come together. Let's see. Yeah, Jaden, what are your thoughts, or what do you have to say next?
Well, this was first a very interesting activity. I mean, I don't know how anyone could have pulled that off, but only this group could. It was a very unique activity, to say the very least. So I just, love the collaboration. Before we enter into our next portion of today's event, I would like to know that the chat box will be reopened just for questions for the guests that we're going to have speaking in a few short moments, but not for promotions or any other announcements. So on that note, I guess we'll begin the Let's Talk portion of the events. For first, I'll just begin with a question. And I want to first start with Chris Percy, who has joined us on the Zoom call. And I would like to ask him, with your work as a MoveOn National Training Director, what does that entail?
Oh boy, that's a big question. Well, it's what I bring to training. It really is like thinking back to my experience as an organizer and political operative here in Chicago and throughout Illinois. So what I do as a training director is a little different than what I've seen other training directors do. So a lot of times in these political spaces, what you have with the training director is somebody who just comes and tries to just teach you the mechanics of how to do a particular thing within politics, right? Whether it's, okay, we want to make phone calls because we're trying to elect somebody. Here's how you make a phone call. Or, okay, here is how to knock on doors if you're going to do that. Or here's how to use this particular app to record whatever it is, there's a lot of folks who do specifically that type of stuff. And it's important and it's necessary. My thinking around training director is much more educational than it is specifically on how to do something, right? As a training director with MoveOn, what I see is an opportunity to what I like to call, and I stole this term, so please do not call nobody and say that Chris Percy thinks he made something up that is not, that has already been made up. But what I try to do as a training director is get people to do some imagineering, right? So one is like, how can I get you to think about a world that is better? And then how can I give you the skills to actually help manufacture a world that is better, right? So the first part of that is just a lot of education. It is talking about the history of our movements. It is talking about the history of the struggles that we as a country have endured and are enduring. It is talking about anti-racism and all of its forms. It's talking about sexism. It's talking about all the isms and classisms and all those types of things. It is it is bringing to light all of the things that we as an organization fight for, right? So it's one thing to do, but it's another thing to actually get educated around what it is that you're doing to be much more informed. And a lot of people are not informed. I would say you're not surprised by that, but the world right now is showing how information is so important and misinformation and disinformation is rampant. So first part of my job is education, figuring out how I can put good information in front of folks in a way that is engaging for them, in a way that they can sort of take those pieces and make them a little bit more digestible, no matter how hard the truth is, because I am really not afraid of hard truths. As a matter of fact, I look for it. I like a little bit of conflict. That's how you know you ruffle the feathers. If everybody just smile at you, you ain't doing nothing. If folks are cussing you out, I'm good, right? That's usually the things that we fight for are not just cool things. They affect us on various levels every day. So that's the first part of what I try to do, and that's a big portion of it. And then I try to give us tools and skills to actually actualize the change that we are learning about. And that's fun too, but I have much more fun in the actual educating part. So yeah, that is sort of my approach to being training director. I've been at MoveOn now for about 5 years, so and various roles throughout the organizing team. So I understand sort of I've been through all the different types of iterations, I guess. And then in my personal work, working here in Illinois, I used to work for Kim Fox, who's the Cook County State's Attorney for her first race. I was her deputy campaign manager, and I worked back in 2013 on marriage equality with Organizing for Action and various other things like that. So I try to bring all that experience into what I do.
What have you been able to accomplish through your work with MoveOn?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question, because like the work that we do is actually never ending, right? So it's hard to sort of qualify or even quantify the experience, right? It's like it's like taking a spoon out of the ocean, and sometimes that sounds discouraging, but you know, that is the work of this world. Everything is built off of, you know, our past experience and things like that. So it's something that just to think about. But what I have really loved in my work at MoveOn is the ability to build relationship, because at the foundation of organizing, at the foundation of our society, period, is relationship. And when we learn more about how to effectively be in relationship with one another, that is the point where change can happen, right? And so, so there have been many projects where it's just, you know, within my own scope, it might be 15 people who like, you know what, this changed the way I talk to my friends about voting. That changes things, right? And it might be 15 people, but that can have exponential ripple effects, right? So like when I can get somebody to think about something differently, that to me is the work. Because not only is it something that I was help do in that moment, but it has a multiplying effect. So yeah.
I'd like to pose this next question to Gabi. As an immigrant, what are some of your concerns with some of the new laws that some say discourages voting?
Yeah, it's a huge concern. And I think it's a huge threat to even just like our safety and well-being as immigrants and as people who can't vote, right? So like, I've never been able to vote in this country. I've lived in the US now for almost 20 years, longer than I've ever lived in my home country. My family, every member of my family has been able to adjust status and are citizens. And so through organizing is how I've been able to get people like my parents who were new naturalized citizens, but didn't really see, because of the messages that they constantly received, didn't really see that like they belong here and that their voice matters and that they should have a say in what's happening. And so that's really what brought me to organizing, is this realization that like for a long time, I thought that like I didn't get to participate in our democracy because I couldn't vote. And organizing kind of showed me that one, it's messed up that I can't vote, and we need to change that. We need to make sure that everybody has that right and has a pathway to citizenship. And two, that that's not the only way that we influence what's happening in the halls of power, right? And so we can organize, we can work together to fight against these attacks on our communities. And you know, and if we're able to kind of do that and to activate our people, we can be successful.
What would you say is the best way to tap into that inner activist in most immigrants?
You know, I think Chris really spoke to this, is like building those relationships. It's bringing the information. There's a reason why there's a lot of skepticism in our communities about like, will my vote even matter? Because it's, you know, it hasn't mattered in the way that it needed to, right? And like people are actively being suppressed. And so I think it's coming into communities, building relationships, building trust, and then bringing information and like activating people to be able to show up.
I'd like to pose this next question to Amanda. You've advocated on behalf of Indigenous people for a long time and throughout your career. Why do you believe it's important that Indigenous history is protected and respected here in the U.S.?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question, Jaden. I mean, I think that we just, in the United States, we have this culture of colonization, and it's hard for a lot of folks who live in this country to even acknowledge that there were sovereign nations here before the white people ever came. So I think that protecting and celebrating Indigenous culture is important because that's the land we're living on. That's the folks who were here before any of us got here. I also think that a lot of the environmental degradation that we're seeing in our country is a result of people not living in harmony with the land. And I think like Indigenous communities are one of the first lines of defense that are always protecting our water, stopping pipelines. And I think that like if we align our organizing with the struggles of Indigenous peoples, that's going to uplift everybody in the country.
You're not an activist full time, but you still find the time to elevate the voices of the unheard. So, what is your message to most people who want to get into activism, but still haven't found the time to do so?
So I have been a full-time organizer with MoveOn for almost a year, but I would say the best advice that I can give is that you can do organizing literally anywhere in your daily life. You don't have to go a place or learn something new in order to start doing organizing. I know tons of folks here in Baltimore that literally started their organizing work by signing a petition when they were standing at the bus stop. Or somebody could have approached them outside the grocery store. So I think like the small conversations that you're already having in your life, whether that's like with your family or at your faith institution or wherever you go, like don't underestimate the influence that you could have in dialogue, even if it's for 30 seconds with another person. That can be really meaningful and can change the way that somebody looks at an issue. And even just inviting them like, hey, I'm going to an action later. This might not be something you've been to before, but do you want to come check it out with me? Like all of those things could like ignite something in somebody that they didn't even know was there.
I'd like to pose this next question to Durrel. You registered over 5,000 voters in your advocacy work, rather. So why do you feel voting is crucial when it comes to criminal justice? Because you've had a past and really have done a lot of activism when it comes to criminal justice.
Absolutely. I think, when you think of a cookout, the best cookouts I've ever been to are where it's not only the food that I'm used to and that I expect, but when, someone brings something from their culture or from their background that I didn't think that I would like hummus. First time I saw hummus, I was like, I'm good. But I went on and I tried it, and now like I love me some hummus. And I think when it comes to voting, the decisions that are made are best when the majority of people have a chance to give their input, and that includes those who are what we call justice involved. So those who have been to jail or to prison.
There's been a lot of contention regarding the teaching of systemic racism in our schools. So do you feel America's really ready to acknowledge its dark?
I don't think anything that's easy is ever worth it. And I think it's a very, very difficult conversation that has to happen because it's part of how we got here. So to look at anything that's happening when it comes to the protest, when it comes to anything, you look at what's happening with these voter restriction laws, it's all part of the exact same campaign towards white supremacy and racism. And until we acknowledge that, full stop, right, head on, it's got to be a head-on collision. It can't be, okay, everybody, we're gonna put our foot in the pool in a couple of seconds. No, we got to jump in because that's the only way that we really and truly change anything.
To Bekir, as the son of war refugees, what's it like to see all of the chaos that has stemmed from the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan?
It's awful, and America's at fault for most of the terrorist organizations that have arisen in the Middle East and most of the chaos that is occurring in the Middle East. It was never a stable area, but America's only exploited and exacerbated the problems there. wasn't ready for this question, but it's one I think about often because people oftentimes forget the real people on the ground and that the governments in charge or the oppressive organizations that are at the front face on the media that are like leading the nation, the people aren't represented by them, and they're being oppressed more than anyone you could think of. So that's important to keep in mind. And it's constantly a traumatic experience for my parents and other people, other refugees, to see any oppression going on with folks, whether it be in South America, the Middle East, terrorist acts in Europe and America, anything like that. The white supremacy that goes on in America, that's the greatest terrorism threat that we have domestically. So that's just another dynamic where you can understand even the word terrorism and the word refugee and all of this is so conflated with misconceptions based on ignorance, fear, and otherwise miseducation. That's not even a word, is it? I don't know. But yeah, does that answer your question?
It does. It does. What would you say the progressive work on MoveOn means in terms of the 2022 election? So a lot of the things we see happening now, they're going to be greatly impacted by what happens in 2022 and years into the future. So what do you say that work is going to mean in these coming months?
Oh, it's vital, I think. So one thing with Afghanistan, it's important just to remember that it's a 20 years long war and that Joe Biden isn't at fault for everything going on here, though his departure was messy and I would hold him accountable for it. We still did a good job evacuating folks thereafter, and the whole mess isn't his fault to begin with. But it's going to play heavily on the election, so that just means that we have the elections in 2022, especially. It's not going to go well for Democrats unless we do a lot of relational organizing, hold true to our message, celebrate our wins that we've had so far, and then hold our elected officials at the moment accountable to deliver even more before election time comes, so that we actually have something to prove, like why we should be in office, first of all, because people are going to be skeptical every election cycle if we don't provide the results that we promise. And it just goes down to relational organizing, which is a theme that Chris has mentioned, Gabi's mentioned, Durrel, Amanda, everyone so far. Could you tell that we're all on the same organizing team? We really believe in building relationships and talking to people, and just having 30 minutes or 30 seconds of dialogue can make a huge exponential impact in one person's ability to then talk to the next person and have that cascading effect.
To Saskia, what impact do you believe disinformation had on the 2020 election? Of course, there were a lot of foreign threats, but there were also a lot of domestic threats, even some people calling Black voters, telling them not to show up to the polls. So what impact would you say that's had, really?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that disinformation is such a big piece in just our world with technology. And also we see disinformation playing a different role in election space starting in 2016. And I think that's where disinformation started playing the role that it does now. In this past election, I think that it led to the insurrection, right? There are so many things on a lower level and based on just the information being shared in households and the way that people read the news and interpret the news. And then on a bigger scale, in terms of stopping people from voting, we saw a huge increase in mail-in ballots. There was a lot of disinformation around that. There were so many layers around it that I think it completely altered how we run elections, how we view elections. It impacted the integrity around elections. So yeah, that's how I think disinformation impacts elections.
What are some things you try to instill in future MoveOn members, the next generation of activists?
I would say, just going off of this disinformation, education is key, whether it is to those advocates taking in information and learning things and just being informed about what's going on, and then taking that a step further and how are they sharing that information, I think is really key. I like to think of the game telephone, when you're all in a circle and you whisper, but by the time it gets to the last person, like the message is completely different. And so I think that's really important for advocates, especially young advocates, to keep in mind. I think that young advocates underestimate their impact and who is listening to them. But people are listening, and it matters who you're talking to, whether it's inside of your house, you're going to school, you're going to the grocery store. So just being mindful of how you're taking in information and then how you're sharing that information, I think would be one of my biggest pieces of advice.
The next question is for Ever Mac. You've worked in a lot of successful grassroots campaigns. So what do you believe is the best ingredients for a successful grassroots campaign?
I don't think she's not here right now, Jaden.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I had all my questions stacked, for everyone, but I guess that would conclude this portion of the event.
Okay, I think you have a one-on-one with Durrel.
Yes, that would be correct. So, I've heard a little bit about, a very motivational story that you've had about a jersey. So tell me a little bit about that story.
So there's this saying of a jersey for everyone that has kind of been spread about on our calls and stuff at MoveOn. And here's where it comes from. So in high school, I was not into sports. I was into band. Are there any other fellow band nerds on the call? Raise your hands. Okay. What instruments did you play? Feel free to come off mute right quick and just say really quickly. No, you're not gonna say?
Saxophone.
Okay. What? Oh, what did you say, Chris?
Saxophone.
Saxophone. Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
I learned how to play Row, Row, Row Your Boat on guitar, and then I forgot.
Okay. Okay. So I played the trumpet. We were basically the main instrument of the band. If you were in band, then you know that the trumpets, kind of walk with this gravitas because they know that they play the part of the song that you whistle. And so it was freshman year, and I'd gone through band camp and did all of that, and finally we were actually going to go to a game, and the game was going to be in a little town called Brenham, Texas. Anybody familiar with Brenham, Texas? Okay, so they're known for making Bluebell ice cream, and if you've not had Bluebell ice cream, you are missing out on life, but that's another conversation. So we're driving on the bus, and there's nothing but, this is roughly probably 90 minutes or so outside of Houston. So you're in rural Texas, right? The Texas that y'all think of with the cowboy hats and the cows and, and we're going, around these little, through the plains basically. And we pull up to the stadium for Brenham High School, and the entire side of the other side of the stadium is full, and everyone is wearing green. It was baffling because I had never, y'all have probably seen the movie Friday Night Lights. Okay, football in Texas is a big deal. So all of that confidence kind of shuttered me a little bit as this freshman, because we're about to march in and play on the other side, just the band. Where did all the people come from? Because I didn't even see that many houses as we were going. So we get off the bus and we get information and we're marching into the stadium. There are so many people on their side that their band was on our side. Whoa. Okay. So of course, through the duration of the game, they had all these little traditions and these little chants. They were a team, and just that was intimidating. But one of the things that I observed was everybody had on their shirt. Everybody was wearing green, and it was consistent. It was a culture. There were different contributions. So whether you were on the field, whether you were there because it reminds you of your heyday when you were on the field, whether you had a child or a niece who was a cheerleader or a nephew who was on the field or a kid who was in the band, everyone had a part and everyone had a role. Because remember, just me being a member of the band was intimidated. So imagine what the football team felt, right? Where we're from Houston, which, you know, is a pretty big city, and we come to this little town and they are doing it like that. So at the end of the day, that's where the theory of a jersey for everyone came from. And so it's like, no matter if you play football or you work in concessions or you're a band parent, there's a place for you.
Durrel, that is an absolutely wonderful story. I mean, that to have that, you know, consistency in a stadium and for everyone to be that organized and on the same page, it serves as an example as what we should be doing in the country. And I'm not saying everyone's going to be on the same page all the time, but honestly, that is a great example of really what we should be doing. And it's a great example of what happens in groups like this. So on that note, I'd like to pass the baton to Zoe and Ivy.
Awesome. Again, I want to thank everybody for their answers. Jaden, those were some awesome questions. As we are closing, I want to invite everybody, if you have any closing remarks or thoughts for any of our amazing speakers today, leave them in the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask them anything, go ahead and do that now. And then I'll give everybody just a second to see if anybody wants to unmute.
Hello.
There you are. Hi, Kate.
Hi. This has been so amazing, and I absolutely loved that story as well. I love the great sense of humor that people are bringing, and all the amazing insight is just very encouraging, and so, like, I get choked up. But the cool thing, what I'm wondering is, we have so many kids. Like, I'm a parent. I do my part to educate my own kids. But I just was curious if there was any kind of like parental group outreach that we can do, because I feel like that's one of our many ways to get the toe into the water, and it won't be so shocking as it is to try and engage adults into a completely different non-colonial mindset. You know, I feel like, you know, my kids really are advocates. Like, I'm so surprised, but I love it. And I just wonder how do we kind of encourage that? Like, I feel like that's our underground as well, because we have all those, I don't know. I used to work with the Southern Arizona AIDS Foundation, and we would go to the schools and we would do like Planned Parenthood education for sex ed and stuff, and like provide information, and, you know, and so I'm just kind of curious if there is something like that in the undercurrent, that ripple that we haven't, I don't know about. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but how do I help, or how do we help get our little guys who are immersed in the colonialism education mindset, you know, I know that's kind of a huge question and could take up all day, but just any insight I would love to hear. Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to take a quick stab at that, really quick. And it is a big question. I don't know of a specific group right now, but it is definitely something to think about and look into. But a couple things that when people ask me this question that I have, one is to keep deepening your own understanding, right? Like keep adding more levels to your own learning and resources. And then think about like, you know, if you don't see it, can you create it? Right? Like, are there 2 or 3 other parents that you know that would be down to start something? You'd be surprised how many folks would be like, oh, okay. You know, you'll also be surprised by how many folks would be like, no, that's not for me. But like, well, I don't know if you'd be surprised. I don't know. You know, I'm just speaking generally. But I think a lot of times we look for things, and the thing that you look for, you know, I'm a big church boy, and I'm not preaching anything, but like one of the things that a mentor of mine used to always say, the the one thing that bothers you the most is probably the thing that you're called to address, right? And if you do not see it, then that is your thing, right? That is the thing that you are like, hey, AK, maybe you need to, and it starts small. And do not think that it has to be something that is super huge and super complicated, because I think we've been conditioned to think that that is effectiveness. That's also part of sort of that culture that in order to be successful, it has to be big. It has to have another. No, like I said before, sometimes if you can change one person's mind and that multiplying effect, you are changing generations by getting just a few people. And if it grows, amazing, right? But if you still have that small core group that's doing it, even just as amazing, right? So that's what I would say to that. But I mean, it is definitely something that is very interesting to look into. There's tons of research about how to, figuring out ways to actually touch younger folks. Like, this is something that we are always thinking about. Like, whether it's the medium, do we do a TikTok video versus a traditional training? Do we there's always things like that we're trying to flush out. But like starting from scratch, just start deepening. Continue to deepen your own understanding, and then just bring some people in and go run from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. So again, as we're closing, I just want to thank everyone for attending today. Our focus today was unity, so that's kind of why we did our skit earlier, so we could come together and create something that was unimaginable, and we did that. So thank you guys again for your time, the laughter. I needed to laugh today, y'all. So thank you. I feel so good, and I'm so grateful for all of our speakers. You guys are incredibly inspiring. Please keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring us and the younger generation. But yes, at this time, if we are all good, Mimi.
I think Bob has a question.
I want to say thank you to these folks from MoveOn. I've been sort of marginally involved with MoveOn since the original election of Obama, and I've been around a lot of things going on, but I'm so much more impressed now with seeing these folks who are working with MoveOn on a regular basis. You're very impressive and very encouraging, and give me a lot more hope than I've had. Thank you very much.
And we're going to try not to cry, aren't we? Oh my gosh, you guys were absolute. I did not know what to expect. I really didn't. Because I love you guys so much, and it's just amazing to hear your stories. And I'm more motivated, encouraged now than before. And I was extremely motivated before, but just to hear you guys from your heart, because I've never had this opportunity. I've had like snippets in our meetings, Chris did this, Gabi did that, Durrel and Amanda are doing this, but today it's like, it was down home real. So I am just absolutely, try to stop me now if you want to. It's not gonna happen. I'm serious. I'm on it. I'm in it. I've got my jersey. For real, I've got my jersey on. And I don't know what color it's going to be, but whatever color it's supposed to be, that's what I will be wearing. This was absolutely amazing. And I think I saw a hand. Was that you, Lisa? Okay. So yeah. And I was thinking, I hope this is going to be, I was going to try to write it up, but we have a YouTube channel. And I will post this in our mobilized community. So if people want to see this, and I'm going to encourage them to watch it, it's worth it. For people who don't know you guys and what you do and where you're from, your pains, your hurts, your concerns, I hope they'll watch it. I can't put words, I would mess it up trying to finalize your thoughts and all that. So I just really, blown away. I love you guys so much, and I'm so glad you took the time to be here with us today. And I didn't know what it was going to look like or sound like, or except for my son, Chris Percy. He's not my son, but it feels like it. I love him. I love him, love him, love him. Love you guys too. So yeah, I'm messing up the closure, but I just had to say it because I'm speaking from my heart. I've worked with you guys all this time, and just to hear you today, it's huge. Yeah, so it just increased my respect for you 100% more. Yeah, you guys
I
were.
just want to say thank you to you, Miss Evelyn, and to everyone who organized this call for inviting us and creating this space. It was just as like enriching for me personally to be here with you all today. And I really appreciate everyone who's here. And obviously with a special shout out to you, Miss Evelyn, who does so much, who is so engaged, and just is, it's an absolute honor to be organizing with you. So thank you for having us on the call.
Thank you. Back to you, Zoe.
All right, so we will send out information for next month's meeting. But that is all. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their Sunday, and we'll see you next month.